Pizza, guys, girls. Does your shop have a no delivery list? What houses are on it and why? Story 1. Delivered pizza in high school living in New York. There was a couple neighborhoods that we had to be escorted by police who were permanently stationed on the corners there. When you got to the building, we had to wait in the security booth that had bulletproof glass. This was all because people would call delivery places and just rob the people of the money they would carry, sometimes the cars too. Story 2. Worked at a Hungry Howie's Pizza in college. They are basically a cheap discount pizza chain. We had a few stores in a college town. Mine served the local college campus and the areas out west and south. These included the bad parts of town. We had a list of about 10 or so neighborhoods or streets we did not deliver to because drivers had been robbed, one of which was a rather large government housing project. That never went over well when I had to explain it to people. They often me out like it was my idea or called me a racist. We also refused to hire female drivers because of an incident before I was hired. A group of people made multiple fake calls throughout the night to different addresses until the female driver showed up. When she did, they kidnapped her and raped her for days. Edit. She lived. The cops spotted the car a couple of days later with 4 of her attackers in it. Edit 2. It was in Florida. Edit 3. Another story. One of our drivers was a kind of crazy homeless guy who had some anger management issues. One time a dude pulled a shotgun on him while he was still in his car. He was having a bad day, so he just grabbed the barrel, pointed it forward, and floored the gas pedal. He also used to sunbathe in his white briefs in the nasty parking lot behind the store while laying out on old pizza boxes. Story 3. There was an older man who suffered from dementia that would order 4 fountain drinks and nothing else from my shop, then would tip about $300 every time. After hearing about it a couple times, I told my manager, and we all agreed to get in contact with his family, let them know we wouldn't take orders from him, and that they'd have to take some measures to keep him from doing the same with other establishments. God only knows how much money that guy gave away. Story 4. I am on the no delivery list of 2 restaurants because my roommate is a f***ing idiot and can't math to save his life. He once sent a driver away after a heated conversation with a 25-cent tip. Unfortunately, I was in the shower at the time. It wasn't until afterwards that he was explaining the situation to me that I realized what a moron he was. The bill came to $20.25. He gave the guy $20 and thought it was a good tip because we ordered 2 sandwiches that were basically $7 apiece and a $1 soda for a total of $15, so $5 tip. In actuality, the sandwiches were $7.99 and the soda was $1.99, so $18 right there. Then there was a $2.25 delivery fee, so $20.25. Unfortunately, the delivery guy spoke almost zero English, so all he could say was, "Not enough," to my roommate, and my roommate is an hat who wouldn't read the damned receipt. He is no longer allowed to answer our door. Story 5. I delivered to the dorms when I was in college, back before credit cards could be used to pay for pizza. In the largest men's dorm, we had a war with some of the residents after they got pissed when we wouldn't accept an expired coupon for a 14 pizza order. So they kept calling us up with ghost orders and making life hell for us over the course of a few weeks. So we stopped delivering to anyone in that dorm. As we were the cheapest pizza in town, that did not go over well with them. The resident advisors got every student in that dorm together and told them to knock it the f*** off or get kicked out. So we tried to deliver again, and the same happened. So we banned that dorm forever. It was cool by me because those idiots would place 5.20 pizza orders and tip $2. E-diet. It was the mid-'80s, and there was no caller ID. Most of the students used the wall of payphones we had in the lobby, but some rooms had their own phone. Regardless, there was no way of knowing who was calling. Story 6. Yes, I worked for a pizza place in high school. One of my friends was killed during a delivery. Apparently, the husband had been in trouble before for domestic violence or something. I heard stories about the wife answering the door with fresh on her face, black eyes, that sort of thing. A couple other guys actually called the cops after delivering their pizza. Anyways, my friend shows up to deliver the pizza, and I guess the husband thought he had called the police a few nights before. The husband shot and killed my friend. Story 7. I delivered pizza in New Jersey. I went on the porch to see a snarling Rottweiler behind the door. Not a big deal. Happens a lot. I'm a stranger. The dog is just being a dog. The lady pushes him back. We do the pizza transaction. And as I'm turning to go, the lady said, "Oh my God, he's out." The back door was open, and the dog was charging around the house about to come on the porch. I quickly opened the door to run inside, but but the lady screamed, "No, the really bad one is inside," and I see a bigger Roddy just inside the hall, so I stick myself between the screen door and the real door, and I'm trapped in an angry dog sandwich. The outside dog bites my calf because I can only close the screen door so much. Not much damage, but I'm The manager goes to talk with the lady. It is like 1/8 of a mile from the store, or that lazy bastard wouldn't have bothered. And Roddies are penned up out back. As soon as the lady starts talking to him, another small mutt dog zips out the door and bites him on the hand. He made the call on no more pizza for them. Story 8. We had a guy and 2 girls order separately, then grab the pizzas and run. The girls had picked the food up and left, while the guy was paying. After 30 seconds, the guy bolted. It was a $100 order. My manager, who is a frequent gym goer, leapt the counter and gave chase. The 2 girls had gotten into a car with the food, but when they saw my manager, they drove off, leaving the guy. My manager chased him 3 blocks and was gaining on the guy when the girls pulled up and the guy got into the car. Unfortunately, all 3 of them went to school with a kitchen hand at the store, so we had names, jobs, addresses, and Facebook accounts. We contacted them all on Facebook and got them to pay for the pizzas the next morning, under threat of contacting police. We also put them on the no delivery list. Story 9. Okay, we had a really nasty apartment complex in one area of Sacramento. Totally a no. One night, a new guy took an order and actually accepted one from there. I was about to call back and say no. I was asked manager at the time, but running pizzas that day. When in come 2 cops to pick up their pizza, they listen in and offer to tag along. I was dumb and crazy then, so we made the pizza, and I loaded into my little truck and drove out there. As soon as we pull into the parking lot, the cop turns off all his lights and coasts into the spot next to mine. I walk up, start the spiel, and start listening to their story of this guy or that guy ordered it. I started to walk away, and one of the shady dudes steps out of the bushes next to me, where he'd been hiding. Instantly, every light came on the cop car. Flashers, both spotlights pointing right at me. The cop's getting out of the car. Fast. Dude steps way back. I walk back to my car, and a couple cops got an extra free pizza that night, and I got a great story. Story 10. We had a few blacklisted numbers addresses. Mostly were for people who wrote bad checks or would constantly complain, our return orders, make threats. One address that was on the absolute edge of our delivery area, a business all by itself on the edge of town, got blackballed because people from outside the delivery area would give that address and meet us there. A couple of bad neighborhoods, including one that was literally 6 dilapidated trailers in the middle of a field with a 2-track going back to it. Nothing but crackheads with pit bulls and Roddies with no leash were blacklisted too. Story 11. I worked at a Little Caesars when I was a teenager. On a really snowy night, one of our drivers got into a car accident and sadly lost his life on his way to deliver the pizza. The customer called in a little while after we learned about the accident and absolutely lost it that his pizza hadn't been delivered. When the manager explained the situation, he stated he did not give a fuck and wanted his pizza delivered for free. Needless to say, he got an earful from my manager and then was put onto a no-serve list. Story 12. I used to be a delivery driver for Pizza Hut. I used to work the Sunday afternoon shifts and would have the same man order a supreme pizza every week. I was always the one to deliver his order because most of the time I was the only driver on duty at that time of day. Alan was a nice, quiet man who had a lovely front porch. One day, I didn't take his delivery for some reason. Poor Marvin took the delivery instead on the day that Alan decides to open the door stark naked. Alan wanted to show me, a small red-headed girl, the goods, not Big Black Marvin. Alan never got another delivery. Story 13. In the late 90s, I was still living in Detroit and in between desk jobs, so I delivered pizza as a part-time gig. Detroit's neighborhoods have been rough for a few decades now, but the 90s seemed like they were on their own level. I won't say the specific neighborhood, but there were some really rough ones. This one house, though, this house was just in awful shape. I kind of figured this would be bad even as I was driving down the street to get there. Every other house, literally, was either burned out or very obviously abandoned. This one was just looking, but I tried to be optimistic. I walked up to the door, awning kind of drooping over my head, and knocked. Almost instantly, the door cracked open, and all I saw was a dark hand with what looked like a Glock. Leave the pizza and walk away. I complied, obviously, and told my manager that I wouldn't be delivering to that neighborhood anymore. Still stuck around with that job for another 6 months or so, but that was probably the only thing on that level I've seen. Story 14. Let me tell you this. One time I worked for this lady that owned Nardon's Pizza in Atascadero, California. She was the worst person ever. No one ever worked there longer than a couple months, and she just shit on everybody. She didn't have a no-delivery list, but what she did have that was even worse was her own personal whitelist delivery book that had every single good tipper in the world on it. Example. Delivery boy gets back and goes, "Wow, that guy tipped me $20. Owner then writes down that order name number in her book. Next time that guy calls to order a pizza, she doesn't let anyone else deliver. She takes the delivery. No one knew this trick, and she just kept taking orders from all the newbies. I worked there for about 4 months, and caught on after the first month or so. After that, I spent the next few months claiming that the horrible tippers were amazing tippers. I would watch her go to these repeat customers and come back with a disgusted look on her face. I would ask her what's wrong, but she didn't want to talk about it. Story 15. A coworker and friend of mine got a delivery one night before he left. Our manager pulled him into the office, gave him a pair of latex gloves, and instructed him to use them to put the money in an envelope. He was confused but didn't ask many questions. He says when he got to the house, there was actual caution tape around the yard and a sign that said something like, "Warning, infestation." He is somewhat of a germaphobe to begin with, so at this point he really does not want to go up to the door, but he has to deliver this pizza. The woman who answers the door is grotesque and is covered in red splotches and potentially bites of some kind. He quickly hands her the pizza, carefully takes her money with the gloves on, and stuffs it in the envelope, and sprints back to his car. He threw a fit when he got back to the store, and the manager felt so bad she put the house on the blacklist. He said he scrubbed his hands till they were red afterwards. Thinks it was bed bugs or scabies or something, we'll never know. Story 16. I delivered for a while in college, and there was 2 we don't deliver there neighborhoods. The manager actually allowed it to be driver's choice, but pretty much everyone said no. I actually had a friend who grew up in one of these neighborhoods, and I knew it wasn't just drug-dealing, murdering psychopaths running rampant, so I said yes, and I delivered to these neighborhoods. One time I was delivering to an apartment that was part of a triplex or quadplex, and some kid outside, probably like 5 or 6 years old, stuck his finger at me and said, "This is a robbery. Give me your money." I just chuckled and kept walking. While I was giving the person their pizza, I heard from behind me, "The hell do you think you're doing, boy? Don't you know we're the only one who deliver here?" Then, as I was walking back to my car, he was standing on the sidewalk, Mom several feet behind him, and he said, "I'm sorry." Story 17. I was delivering for Godfathers in Memphis in 1988. We had no delivery houses as well as areas. We had one area smack dab in the middle of our normal delivery zone that was blocked out. It was a low-income apartment complex. We got a new manager. He was eager to up his numbers, so quickly changed that area to being a legit delivery area. The first time he handed me an order for that complex, I explained that it was a really complex and we didn't go there for a reason. He accused me of being racist because I didn't want to deliver to the complex. Complex was all black, I was white, manager was black, and said just to deliver it and quit complaining. Okay, man. So I drive it out there and walk upstairs to the apartment door. I knock. No answer. I look a bit closer and it is obviously a vacant apartment. So I head back to my car and am sorting my money bag and next order when I glance up in the rearview mirror. I see 3 bad-looking dudes crossing the parking lot heading right for my car. I notice one of them is carrying a rifle. Holy shit. I cranked up my Volkswagen Rabbit, threw it in reverse, and hauled out of the lot. I get back to the shop and the new manager accused me of making it all up and said he didn't think I had even attempted to deliver it. He says to go back out there. I say no f***ing way, dude. He insists. So I insist. He comes with me. He agrees. We drive back out there. He carries the pizza up the stairs, realizes that it is a vacant apartment, and quickly gets back in the car. Sorry, dude. You were right. It was a setup. We got back to the shop and he marked the whole area off limits again. Story 18. I had a roommate that ordered from one of my favorite Chinese places around. He ordered then fell asleep. Pissed them off hard. They wouldn't deliver to me anymore, so I had to go into the restaurant, speak with the owner, and beg to get him to deliver to me anymore. I had a code word that they knew, and if I didn't give that code word, no delivery. My roommate was a piece of shit and stole all my pots and pans when he moved out. Story 19. Prior to my freshman year of college, 2002, I was delivering pizzas for Pizza the Hut in a decent suburb outside of Cleveland. I was the typical stoner partier easygoing delivery guy, as a little background. One afternoon my manager requested I go change several $100s for smaller bills for our register. As I'm leaving the bank after getting change and getting into my car, I sense someone approach from behind and suspect they are going to ask me for a cig. Nope. Instead, it's a dude with pantyhose in his head and a knife, and demands the money I have in my pocket and my keys. I oblige, and he ultimately runs off and tosses my keys in the parking lot where I can see. When I run into the bank, no one at all saw the incident, and wouldn't you know, when they pull the footage, there is sun glare in the exact spot on the window where my car was parked. The cops interrogate me and search the car, but seem to conclude that in fact I was telling the truth. My manager even vouched for me, saying how I was a good kid. Flash forward to about 10 years, and I'm telling the story at a party, and bam, it hits me. My manager, who often dated unsavory characters, set up the whole thing. Considering I was robbed in front of a bank in broad daylight on the busiest street in my town, who the hell would know to rob me? Especially since I hadn't put my car topper on at this point. Story 20. Our delivery store has a woman who used to come in every so often, or order delivery, who did not want black people to interact with her or her food at all. One of our drivers, a really nice old black dude, delivered to her, and she simply slammed the door in his face. Another time, she walked out on a black cashier because she swapped places with the white driver who was originally taking her carried order. Finally, the manager put his foot down and told her not to come back or order from us ever again. Story 21. I used to deliver sandwiches for a shop. We had to blacklist this one lady who would call up last minute and demand 5,100 sandwiches for her meetings, and she wanted them delivered in 15 mins. We explained things to her over and over again that this was not how it worked, but she still demanded her order. So, when it showed up 45 mins later than expected, she became a monster, causing a scene, not tipping, sending in complaints to the district manager, etc. This happened so many times, and finally one day, she called in an order for 200 sandwiches, wanted it in 15 mins. I delivered it myself, and she took the sandwiches from me for her meeting. I sat there and waited for her to sign the receipt, and waited, and waited. Turns out, she took the sandwiches into her meeting and booked the hell out of there, not signing the receipt. She then called her bank to cancel the charge on her card and called us in for fraud. She had the nerve to call up our district manager and said that we owed this to her since all of her orders were late. She was blacklisted after that, and my district manager finally apologized for not believing me on this story.